This is Donald Parham of the LA Chargers, and you're listening to Chargers Unleashed, part of the LAFB Network. Stay G's.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. Today's show, of course, is being brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, AG1, Aura, Mint Mobile, and Rock Solid Sports Memorabilia. If this is your first time tuning into the show, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Dan Wolkenstein, huge Monday night matchup, prime time for the Chargers.
Happy Monday, folks. We got a football game on tonight.
The excitement of Dan Wolkenstein could not even let me finish my introduction before he could let everybody know what day it is. It's primetime matchup for the Los Angeles Chargers as they head out to the New York Jets. Big implications in order for the Chargers to continue, let's just say, I guess, start the winning streak after what they built off on Chicago a little bit, try to gain some momentum as we try to turn the corner of this season. And for the Chargers, they need to start stacking wins now, especially when it comes to playoff implication down the road. But for today, prior to kickoff, Dan Wolkenstein, once again, that age-old phrase that just ages like fine wine, has been working the phones. And when Dan Wolkenstein works the phones, magical things tend to happen. And that is what we have for you today. Dan Wolkenstein, the floor is yours.
One of the underrated movies or series in movies, Men in Black. And one of my favorite actors, Will Smith. And one of my favorite songs from Will Smith is Getting Jiggy With It. And with that smooth transition, our friend again comes on to the show. Mr. Donald Parham Jr. will be with us today to talk all things Los Angeles Chargers versus New York Jets. We'll talk about the momentum. We'll talk about this offensive identity, how they can get the yards after the catch monsters more involved, maybe some celebrations, all kinds of stuff in store here with our friend Donald Parham Jr. Looking forward to it. This is going to be a fun one. Matchup galore leading into Monday Night Football, and this is a big one, literally and figuratively. Donald Parham Jr. joins us next on Chargers Unleashed. All right, well, we are super excited today. Second time on the show, so now friend of the show, Mr. Donald Parham Jr. joins us to talk a little Chargers football. Donald Parham, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little nervous. Big game coming up here. How are you feeling? Are you nervous? Are there any jitters? What's it feel like going into this game?
No, man. I mean, this game is probably just one of those exciting games. You know, it's prime time. You get your nerves, but once you hit that first hit, it's like, okay, you're good.
Good. Well, Don, we wanted to start off. We got kind of a glimpse with this week's All In episode. We knew after the Kansas City game, Coach Staley had said, this team needs to reset. And what we got in that glimpse, obviously, you guys in the film room, there was just a different dynamic, and everything that we heard throughout that week, especially from players and coaches alike, was that was the most collaborative week of practice that you guys had. And obviously the results spoke for themselves in that game against Chicago. So I'm interested to know what now is the message moving forward, trying to keep this momentum going throughout the rest of this season.
I mean, you just said it, keep the momentum and making sure that we're staying crisp and sharp in practice each week. Making sure that we're, replicating those successes in practice and making sure we're getting it right, even if we have to do it again.
Now, I have a bone to pick with you, or I guess with the team, not with you, because I love what you're doing. This team has a ton of athletes and, weapons, playmakers on offense. And one of the areas that Jake and I feel like is a huge competitive advantage for you in this offense is kind of that, yards after the catch in space. And we've seen you in some of those as of late. You got Quentin, Darius, Gerald, Austin. It's all of you guys, all of you, that's your strong suit. I feel like we're barely scratched the surface with that stuff. Now, the Jets defense, 7th most missed tackles in the entire NFL. Is this an area that Chargers fans can expect to see you and team expand on in this game and as the season continues?
Absolutely, and that was the point of emphasis coming in this offseason was to, making sure that, we're setting up these routes and everything to 4 yards after catch, and then making sure that that's what we're focusing on, not just worried about catching the ball, because that should be second nature as like a professional athlete. So I feel like we're always looking for that opportunity, and that's what we worked on over the offseason. So
I guess a follow up on that real quick though, like we haven't seen that much early on in the season, and then we've kind of seen that as of late. Like we saw it a bunch with you and Quentin this past week. Like, is there a reason why we didn't see it as much early on? Am my eyes lying to me? Like, what was
no? It's absolutely. It's been just kind of getting comfortable in the offense. Just making sure that we're sure of ourselves as an offense. Making the right plays when they come to us. So it's just those growing pains early, but we're getting more comfortable and we're getting the people in the right spot. So we'll see it more to come.
Now, you've been a favorite target of Justin Herbert when you guys get inside the 20-yard line, seen a lot of action in the red zone. I'm interested to know, just was that always the focus with you and Gerald when Kellen Moore came in as the offensive coordinator to get you guys more targets when you guys entered the red zone?
Absolutely. Kellen, he came to me this past offseason when he got here, and he was saying, hey, we see what you can do, and, just keep doing it. You know what I mean? And so I just, taking his belief and, applying it to my work ethic and, making sure that I'm upholding my end of the bargain when it comes down to the red zone.
There's been some talk, Donald, about and maybe some questioning, I guess, about like what this team's identity is. For you and the team on offense, anyways, like what would you say your identity has been so far this season, and what do you feel that it needs to be in order to get to where you guys want to go?
So far, I feel like we've been like a kind of aired out kind of team. I feel like what we're trying to establish is that we're downhill running, and we'll run right at you, and we're not scared to do it. And so I feel like that's where we have to improve throughout the rest of the season, but we're making the right strides to do so.
Jake, I don't want to interrupt. So Jake and I had this conversation, and you can tell me if I'm completely full of it. But Donald, one of the things that I noticed was like it seems like the team, Kellen Moore, we hear a lot about like the ground and pound and bring the lunch pail and tough and rugged, physical, downhill, like what you're saying. And it seems like a lot of times, especially in the second half, which we'll get to here in a bit, but it seems like a lot of the time the team is trying to do that. And it appears, at least looking at it, that's kind of like the team's like running into a brick wall, just like pounding your head against the wall all the time. Like, I know that's what the team wants to be, but like, is that what the team is? Or like, should it be more the air it out? Like, it's one of those like, have you heard that quote about like, if you judge a fish, if it can climb a tree, it's going to think it's stupid its entire life? Like, is that the team, or is that what you guys want to be?
No, it's most definitely in us. We just have to make sure that we're executing because we're always so close from breaking that one play or, missing that one, block. So it's like we're always a one play off type of deal. But like once we get it going, it's no stopping. It's going down.
Now, a few weeks ago, Donald, you had a new tight end join the team in Nick Vannett. He was recently promoted to the active roster, and he's been in the league for a number of years now. But for those who aren't too familiar with his play, what have you seen from him thus far in practices leading up to this game? And obviously, what is he going to add to this tight end group?
He absolutely adds, that experience that we need. He's got the great blocking ability. He can run routes and catch. He's just, that overall guy that you need in the room, for when morale may be downish, especially, with the release of Trey McKitty. But he brought us back up, making sure that we're making the right plays. He's keeping us accountable in the room, and it's very important that he's here for us.
Now, we saw your celebration, a little shimmy that you did in the touchdown last week. Now, DA and the defense came up with some celebrations with that celebration committee, and we saw those celebrations the following week with the Bears.
Yeah.
What about the offense? Like, do you guys have a celebration committee? Like, if so, who's on it? Like, what's going on with that?
It's the entire O-line. They run it. That's their thing, and so we just kind of with them when it comes down to celebration, team celebration.
Of the O-line, like, who's the brains of the operation?
I'd say probably Trey Pipkins.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, he's kind of running that show for sure.
Okay. Now, I guess kind of the trend that I've seen over the past 4 games, and I know you guys have seen it, and Kellen Moore's kind of talked about it, but like the offense comes out firing for the most part in the first half, and then second half comes around, and it just feels like whether it's stuck in mud or the offense beats itself or missed opportunities, penalties, untimely turnovers, like you name it. Are those struggles like due to game plan? Like, is it execution? Like, from your perspective, like, why has it been such a tale of two halves for you guys over the past month?
It's strictly just, execution. Like I said before, it's always just been that one key block or something like that slipped away from us, or, a penalty or something like that that'll set us back, and it'll be hard to, it's hard to play behind the sticks in this league, especially in that second half when people are fighting for that win. It gets a little tougher. So it's kind of, we have to just make sure that we're executing at a high level throughout 4 quarters.
Now, to piggyback off of that, obviously execution big when it comes to offense, especially when you're going up against one of the toughest defenses in the NFL with the New York Jets. Given how they are performed and held opposing offenses to 2 touchdowns per game, what has been the focus this week on how this team can leave New York with a W?
Attacking the space that they give us. And then also, they play a lot of their safeties play down, so we have to take our shots, and then just making sure that we're establishing our run game, because that'll set up everything else.
Now, I know you're a tight end, but let's just talk receivers for a second. I think Jalen Guyton's going to be back. At least he said so. I got Quentin, Darius Davis. I think all these guys talk about taking deep shots in space. Like, what do you expect from Jalen Guyton this week? Like, are we going to see some deep shots to Davis and Quentin? Like, who's that going to?
I mean, if the game allows it, all 3 of them will. You know what I mean? So we'll see. It's just game by game. It's always different weeks, or just that week. Have to focus on that week. So whatever they give us, we'll take.
And then lastly, receiver-wise, talk to us about Quentin Johnston. I know a lot of people have been clamoring for more of him, kind of a slow start, kind of getting into it. We saw him kind of break out a little bit this past week. What have you seen from him this season, and what should folks expect from him rest of the season?
I feel like he's still growing. He's young, and he had a lot on his plate coming out of, college. So it's just kind of, you have a lot of expectations for your first round draft pick, but at the same time, you have to, your teammates have to make him comfortable in this space so that he can perform at a high level. So I feel like, coming down the line, he'll for sure pick up.
We're talking to Donald Parham Jr., your tight end for your Los Angeles Chargers. Donald, this has been a ton of fun leading up to Monday Night Football. Last question, we'll have it with a fun one.
Okay.
What's your kind of pregame mindset? Like, what's your festivities? What's your kind of method getting from, at the house on the couch to game ready?
So I'm really even keel. I usually just put my hoodie on, throw some music on, and just kind of chill. I can't look at the plays before the game. If I do, I'll start overthinking, and then it's not. So I just leave it all, just let the music play, maybe scroll on Instagram a little bit. Not really listen to a whole lot, but just making sure that I'm, keeping my head focused.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing, hopefully, a very focused, determined. I know it's going to be a tough matchup for you guys. Best of luck to you, not only in this game, but the rest of the season. You've been a pleasure to have on the show again. We appreciate you. Anything else you want to tell the great friends of Chargers Unleashed and Chargers fans before we get you out of here for football?
Keep your eyes glued on the TV when it comes down to Monday night.
Woo, let's go. Donald Parham, number 89 on your Los Angeles Chargers. And for fans, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys next on Chargers Unleashed.